Hey everybody, Dave Howard and Tyson Gabriel here from Premier Risk Management. We've been doing a series called Unmasking the Truth. And I think if you've watched any of our videos or if you looked at any of our information, you'll see that we're not ever claiming to be anti-maskers. But what we're saying is there's a time, a place, a reason, so forth and so on. So today I asked Tyson to come in and join us again here to do another series, because what I want to talk about now is we want to start to get back into the basics of an actual respiratory protection program. And Tyson, if somebody calls us and they say, hey, Premier Risk Management, we want you to come out, we feel that we need a respiratory protection program. Walk me through our steps. What are we going to do first before we say, yeah, just go buy a respirator, we'll come by and fit test you?
Well, one of the things to understand about our firm is we're trained in exposure sciences. So we don't just go in and assume things that need to be done based upon a conversation that we have with a client. We're going to go in there and we're going to evaluate their work environment. They're called the job hazard analysis, a risk assessment, things of that nature. But what we're going to do is we're going to go in, we're going to look at their tasks. And then we're going to look at what exposures they have in various tasks. Could be ergonomics, but in this case, let's say it's a respiratory exposure. So usually you're going to have a airborne contaminant. So we're going to look at the contaminant, its attributes. Is it cancer causing? Does it cause an inhalation, or can it absorb through your skin? And then we'll look at how often the tasks are performed, what kind of losses they've had, both health and financial. And then we go through a series of controls. So they're called the hierarchy of controls, where we have, first we try to eliminate the hazard, and then we'll look at, can we substitute another chemical in for that chemical that's causing the hazard. If both of those can't be achieved, then we'll look at engineering controls, which isolate the hazard. We look at administrative controls, which are policies, procedures to change personnel's behavior. And then our last line of defense, and always our last line of defense, is personal protective equipment that we'll put in place.
So in this hierarchy of controls, you've heard that from us a lot. In that JHA, we usually use equipment, some kind of scientific analysis.
Correct.
Are we going to do air sampling, monitoring, and what's that process look like?
I always do air sampling because I want to know what the exposure limits are. So OSHA and NIOSH have come together with permissible exposure limits for most, especially cancer-causing contaminants. And we evaluate based upon how much exposure the person is getting, will determine how severe and how significant our controls are going to be. If it's not a significant exposure, then we'll look at simpler controls, but they'll always be geared towards the hierarchy of controls to make sure we have that, because the hierarchy of controls, it's a prioritization based on effectiveness. And the reason being is we're eliminating the human element as much as possible out of our controls, because 95% of the problems that we have with safety plans is the human element. So
correct.
The more we can isolate human behavior out of the control process, the better off we are.
So once that process is done, the next part that we're going to do is we're going to identify which respirator, because there is a plethora of these things available out there, and they all have different protection levels. And why don't you just walk through a couple of samples real quick?
Yep, so we have an N95 right here. This is, N stands for non-oil resistant. 95 means the filter is 95% efficient. This is usually, this will be used in a controlled environment setting, low-grade contaminants like viruses, actually anthrax, you can use this. Okay. But it's not long-lasting. This particular N95, because of the heat filter, lasts about 4 hours in a work environment with controlled temperatures, but if you wear it outside, things like that, it will probably degrade after about an hour.
Degrades pretty quickly,
yes,
okay.
Yep.
All right. What else you got there?
And then this right here, this is a half-face 3M 6000 series. It's a 6100. It's a small. I prefer 3M over its competitors, because my experience has been during the quantitative fit test, the same fit test we did in our last video. This achieves a seal faster without the wearer having to fidget with it more. Whereas I've seen with competitors of 3M where they'll have to mess around with the respirator more for it to achieve a proper seal. But these are great. I love these filters right here. These are, so you're going to use a certain filter based upon the type of contaminant. So if it's vapor, asbestos, for example, is a significant contaminant that continuously breaks down. So you want to make sure you have a HEPA filter in this. Okay. This particular filter, it's a 7093C. This one will protect you against vapors, gases, as well as asbestos. So I love this. And it's got this heat protectant right here, so this filter can last up to 6 months.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so it's a great cost savings. You pay the cost up front, but long term, you'll spend about $50 for this for a year's worth of protection. And a box of N95s, for example, might be worth $50, and you'll go through that in maybe a week and a half. So,
well, that's a good point. So, especially when it comes to PPE, and we talk about this a lot, once you get to that system and you've decided there's no other way to do this, you want to make sure you buy quality equipment. And we're not designating anybody as a preferred vendor, but what we're saying is do your research and make sure you hire professionals to come in and help with this, because the quality of the product, the tool that you buy, everybody that does any work out there, it doesn't matter what kind of tool you're buying, you buy a cheap tool, you'll pay for it real quick, trust me.
Correct.
So that other mask that you've got there, what is that?
Yeah, so this is a face mask. It does not protect you. It does not qualify as respiratory protection, no matter what the CDC and Dr. Redfield have said. That is...
oh, that's right. Okay, I remember now.
So that's false. It's not scientifically based. But what this does is this is used for medical professionals to prevent sterile environment from becoming contaminated. Also, if you're sick and you're shedding a virus overtly, this would protect other people from getting your droplets. But this also, short-term use, shouldn't be wearing it outside. You shouldn't be wearing it. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. You're gonna toss it probably within an hour of use, especially if it's soiled.
So now I would like Tyson to walk us through. We're going to assume that we've done the JHA, it's finished, we've done the air sampling, we've identified all of the hierarchy of controls has been used, and we've identified we're going to have to go to a respirator. So we have to have a written program,
correct,
number one.
Yep.
And we have to train the employees, right, on the proper use, storage, when to wear it, how long to wear it, things of that nature. But there's a key element in there that a lot of people miss, and what is that?
Well, it's the, first of all, whenever you introduce PPE to the work environment, to your employees, first thing is you got to make them aware of why you're wearing the PPE, what contaminant you're trying to protect them from. But then also for this in particular, because you're blocking air passageway, so you're causing a decrease in air filtration for the employees. Anytime, even if you're using this or this, some people might be more sensitive than others, and people with lung diseases, asthma, emphysema, things like that, even putting this on can cause them to be significantly injured, ill, and you could actually enhance their condition. So as an employer, your responsibility first is to make sure first they're trained, they understand why we're wearing the PPE. Second, you get them medically cleared. There's a process that OSHA has designated, I believe it's in there under the Code of Federal Regulations 1910.134.
134, correct.
Where you have to go in and an occupational clinic, they're trained in doing a medical evaluation for someone to wear a respirator. They'll go through that. They'll answer a questionnaire, go through a pulmonary test if needed, to make sure they can handle the stress of wearing a respirator or a protective device over for respiratory protection. Then at that point, you got to fit test them. So we did that in our last video with the port account. That's a quantitative fit test. It's scientific based. There's no qualitative one. You'll see that they'll put a helmet over the person.
Oh yeah, okay.
And they'll inject different gases or fluids in there to see if the wearer can smell or taste anything that's in their immediate breathing area. That's very subjective. It's not as scientific, but it does pass for a half-face respirator. But a full-face respirator would require a quantitative fit test, like with the port account. And then after you get fitted, because every respirator has a different size, then you got to go into the training, how to don and doff a respirator, how to maintain it, how to make sure you keep it sanitary, you understand your work environment. Every work environment has different types of contaminants. How often do you need to disinfect your respirator, what kind of disinfectants you need to use, and what those protocols are to disinfect.
And I would assume, especially in Arizona, temperatures, environmental controls will also play a role in how long these things will last and how long their lifespan is going to be. Am I correct?
Correct, yeah. And if you go back to this material is not designed for long-term use in outdoor conditions. So the more you breathe, the more you generate heat. You're gonna soil the respirator. You're also gonna sweat. You're gonna soil this right here is not a durable piece of equipment and shouldn't be relied upon for any heavy-duty work. This is, though, it created for that kind of endurance and ability to work in outdoor conditions. So, but then again, you also have to understand your limitations with it. So
Right.
if you're wearing this, say on a construction site, or out working outdoors, you want to make sure you're taking time to take breaks, to get a breather, make sure you're paying attention. Is this thing getting contaminated? Clean it off. Use those procedures in the training that you've received as a user.
One of the other behaviors that we noticed in Arizona when the pandemic started and everybody was like, mask up, mask up, mask up. We had employees in the summer working that were starting to suffer from dehydration
Yep.
because they weren't taking time to drink water. So that's another important thing to remember, depending on where you're working at. Make sure you stay hydrated and take care of yourself. You know what? This was informative. And if you guys need any information from us, or you need help with your own respiratory program, or you need us to come out and do any fit testing for you, we have a process and we can definitely help you out. And we would look forward to that opportunity.
That'd be great.
Tyson, thanks for helping us out
Yes,
again
sir.
today. Hey, everybody, thanks again. And stay tuned because we have a lot more information coming your way. Bye-bye now.
Bye.